Hi, I'm Sally Abbey. I am the head chef of the Harwood Arms in Fulham. I've spent the last 13 years cooking at some of the best restaurants in London, including the Ledbury, Ellison Street and Gordon Ramsay at Claridge's. And I've now been head chef at the Harwood for almost 4 years. My style of cooking is bold British classics with a touch of nostalgia, and I focus really on bringing out the flavour of food rather than focusing on lots and lots of elements. I like to just concentrate on a few elements done really well. So this is my Christmas menu. Merry Christmas. So to start, we're going to have a seafood cocktail with citrus mayo and fennel. So in there you've got some lobster, some crab, some prawns, a beautiful mayonnaise to bind it all together, and some lovely crunchy fennel. So it's a really nice fresh starter to start off a Christmas meal. Then the main course, we've got some stuffed roast turkey. So the turkey's stuffed with fig and cranberry stuffing made with sausage meat. Then you've got some duck fat roast potatoes that are gloriously crispy, some honey roast parsnips and carrots, Brussels sprouts with chestnut and bacon, and then you've got a Madeira and whole grain mustard sauce to finish it all off and wash it all down. So that is an absolutely wonderful feast there for Christmas Day. And then the pièce de résistance is the profiterole tower for dessert. So again, in the theme of Christmas, we've stuffed the profiteroles with a spiced chestnut cream. So we've got some nutmeg, cinnamon and clove in there to have all those really lovely warming spices. And then a chocolate orange sauce, which has got a little kick of Cointreau in there, you know, booze for Christmas Day. And then we finish that with a bit of gold paint, because why not? And then it's a lovely couple of bottles of wine to wash it all down with. So we've got some amazing ingredients as ever in the Banquist box. So the starter is going to be a seafood and citrus cocktail. So you've got some lobster, some white crab meat and some prawns. And then that's going to go with a citrus mayonnaise, some shaved fennel, clementines, sourdough croutons, and gets finished with some dill. Then the main course is roast bronze turkey with all the trimmings. So we've got this beautiful Kelly bronze turkey. We've got some bacon to wrap it in. We're going to do some Brussels sprouts with chestnuts and bacon. We're going to make a lovely whole grain mustard and Madeira jus, and then we're going to have some duck fat roast potatoes and some honey roasted parsnips and carrots. And then for dessert, we're going to have a profiterole tower. So that's going to be some profiteroles, a lovely decadent chocolate orange sauce, chestnut spiced mousse, and then we're going to spray it with a little bit of gold, and then we've paired it with a lovely wine. So at Banquist, we do need you to provide a few of the things for the box. So a few little kitchen staples: butter, salt, pepper and oil, and then all your bits of equipment. So you'll need a couple of roasting trays, a colander, a couple of frying pans, mandolin. If you don't have a mandolin, you can use a grater, and then we're going to get a microplane, a whisk, a spatula, a pair of tongs, a peeler and some string. So the turkey needs to come out of the fridge about 3 hours before you're ready to cook it, to bring it up to room temperature. It means that you'll get a nice even cook on the turkey itself. So these are Kelly bronze turkeys. They're bred to be wild, they're free range, loads of space to roam, and they're really brilliant, fantastic turkeys. Just absolutely delicious. You can really tell that the animal has been looked after by the flavour in the turkey. And then you also get a lovely little handy thermometer to help with the cooking. So we've got this pre-stuff for you. So it's got a lovely chestnut, cranberry and sausage meat stuffing inside for extra flavour. Now what we're going to do is wrap this in bacon. So I'm going to lie the bacon out. You kind of want to stretch it out a little bit so that it's going to go all the way around the breast. So we'll put the breast skin side down, so you've got the lovely presentation side on the top. And then we're just going to secure that with a little bit of string, just to make sure it doesn't unravel during cooking. So you just want to do a double knot, so you go around once, go around twice, pull it tight, and then a knot. So do that again, so you go around once, twice, and that holds the knot tight. Just trim this string. So that's turkey wrapped, ready to set aside for roasting later. So we're making the roast potatoes for the main course. So we're obviously going to start off by peeling them. So these are Kaufmann's potatoes. So Pierre Kaufmann has basically done his own range of potatoes that are specifically designed for roasting and chipping. So they're really nice and floury. So floury potatoes come up a lot better than waxy potatoes when it comes to roasting, as they're not as waxy, so they're going to be a lot fluffier in the end. So we're just going to peel all the potatoes, and then we're going to cut them in a nice even size so they all cook evenly as well. We're going to cook them in some nice salted water. So it's important that you put a generous amount of salt in the water at the start, then you get that lovely seasoning all the way through rather than trying to season them at the end. Number one mistake is not getting that lovely fluffy crispiness, which you get from giving the potatoes a really good shake in the pan before they go into the roasting tray, and also making sure you've got the oil nice and hot. Another tip is to always have a waste bin to hand, so I'd always peel into a bowl rather than straight onto the chopping board, because then you're not getting mess and soil and bits all over your chopping board. You're ready to go. So you want them all nice even sizes. Like that. And then they're going to go into cold water. So anything that grows below the ground goes into cold water, anything that grows above the ground goes into boiling water. Just because it's a root vegetable, so it's going to take a lot longer to cook. Things above ground generally tend to be green, so you need to preserve the colour, whereas these you don't. And it does look like a scary amount of salt, but it's worth it. So we'll put those on. So you don't want to put a lid on vegetables when you're cooking them. You just want to let the steam escape naturally, and also you just want sort of a simmer rather than a rolling boil, because then you're just going to force lots of water into the potatoes and it will stop them from going as crispy. So we're going to make a Madeira and whole grain mustard sauce to go with the turkey, just make things a little bit more interesting. I find whole grain mustard, well, mustard in general is one of my favourite flavours, and it just gives everything like a nice acidity and piquantness. So we'll start off with some shallots. I think shallots have got a much milder flavour than regular onions, and they just lend themselves very well to sauces. They caramelise nicely and just generally taste good. So I'm just going to roughly chop these. You don't want to chop them too small, because you don't want them to sort of dry out in the pan. You want to keep a bit of that surface area on there so you can get them nice and roasted. So you want that on quite a high heat. You want to hit the shallots quite hard so you get that lovely caramelisation on there. A tablespoon of veg oil in the pan. And some garlic in there as well. So we're not going to slice the garlic. We're going to just crush it gently, because then it lets out its flavours. We don't want it to get over caramelised, because when garlic gets too dark it tastes really bitter. So the food philosophy at the Harwood Arms is flavour driven predominantly, so I'm not bothered about having 20 ingredients on the plate. I'd rather have 3 beautifully cooked, perfect ingredients on the plate and just let the flavours speak for themselves. Obviously it's important to make the food look nice, but I think that's not really shouldn't be the be all and end all of it. You know, it's spending 20 minutes dressing a plate of food and it being cold when it goes to the customer kind of defeats the object for me. It's all about flavour, and ultimately food should be fun at the end of the day, and and it should be an enjoyable thing to cook, it should be an enjoyable thing to eat. And I think sometimes when it comes to fine dining especially, that can get a little bit lost, which is why I just try and keep it as simple as possible. You want it to just taste incredible but not challenge the palate. For me, food is about nostalgia and, you know, remembering things from your childhood and things that, you know, one flavour can take you back 20, 25 years to something you've eaten as a kid, and for me that's so important, especially with British cooking. You know, it's wants to be stuff that everybody knows and loves, rather than trying to put, you know, strawberries and lamb on a plate or something like that. A little bit more oil in there.
Is that a dish you've had and just absolutely hated?
No, God, no, I wouldn't order it. So we'll just go probably 10 peppercorns in there. We'll season it up with a bit of cracked black pepper at the end, but the whole ones will release their aromas in the oil while they're caramelising with the onions. So once you've got a bit of colour going on there, we can then get the garlic in. Like I say, you don't want to put it in right at the start because it will start to burn. And then we can get some thyme in there as well. Just want to avoid, if you've got a really woody bit of stem, just avoid that because that will kind of taste woody in the sauce basically. So thyme in there. So it's starting to smell really nice now. That caramelised onion smell is one of the best smells in the world. Okay, so you see we've got that nice golden brown going on there now. So we're going to put in the Madeira. Like that. And then we're going to reduce that right down. So we'll reduce it hard and fast. We want to reduce it over the veg so the veg soaks up that lovely flavour and then seeps it all back out into the jus when we put that in a minute. So we're going to reduce that down basically until there's very, very little left. And that will intensify the flavour and make it really sweet and delicious. Okay, so you can see that's reduced now probably by at least 3/4. So we're going to go in with the veal stock now. So this is a stock from True Foods, who are, you know, the best suppliers of stocks and sauces in the country. A lot of chefs, including myself, use them in the restaurant just because they're able to produce restaurant quality stocks for, well, any quantity really. So we'll just tip that in. You can see that lovely gelatinous texture of that. Lots and lots of veal bones have gone into that, so it's going to taste really good. So basically what we're going to do now is just bring that up to the boil, and then we're just going to let it simmer for about 20 minutes. And then after that we'll pass it off and add the mustard at the end. So for the honey glazed parsnips and carrots, we're going to obviously peel them to start off with. I like to keep the pieces of parsnip and carrot as big as possible, again because then you've got a bigger surface area for the honey and you don't end up with these sort of wispy little bits of veg floating around on your Christmas dinner. You get the real flavour of the whole vegetables. So you want to take the core of the parsnip out as well, just because it's a bit woody. And same thing, carrots. So we're going to get some nice colour. So nice lick of veg oil in the pan. So you want a medium hot pan when they go in. Nice sizzle. There we go. So we'll get a little bit of colour on them, and we do the same thing with the carrots, and then we're going to go in with the honey, so the honey caramelizes around the vegetables before they go in the oven. So you're just looking for a nice caramelization on the parsnips. A little bit longer on that one. You get a few carrots in there as well. go. Try and get, there we go, getting there now. Okay, so we'll season these up nicely. So again, I think just roasting the vegetables just adds that extra dimension of flavour. You know, you can just boil the carrots and they taste perfectly nice, but I think the roasted flavour with the honey is just really, really tasty. So we'll go in with a little bit of butter now. Go a bit more, it's Christmas after all. Get a sprig of thyme. Nice clove of garlic. Again, it's just adding flavour all the time, thyme, garlic, all those aromats, just make everything taste fantastic. But the good thing is they don't actually overpower the flavour of the vegetables. So we'll let that butter just sort of brown slightly, sort of Bernadette style. Again, that's going to give the flavour from the butter, just getting that sort of nutty roastedness out of the milk solids from the butter. And then we'll go in with the honey. So lovely drizzle of honey in there. Much as you dare. Already you can smell that gorgeous honey and thyme flavours coming together. And just let that caramelise. As the sugar caramelizes, it sticks to the vegetables and it just makes magic. So you want to reduce that right down so you get that lovely caramelization from the honey. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. You see this beautiful dark caramelization from the sugar in the honey. That's where you're going to get bags and bags of flavour. You've got that lovely glossy, and then we can just go straight into the roasting tray. And then they're only going to take sort of 10 minutes in the oven afterwards. So the Brussels sprouts we're going to cook with some sauteed bacon and some chopped chestnuts. So prep the sprouts, you just literally want to take off the couple of outer leaves and then cut them in half, and then we're going to fry them on this side, so you're going to get again that lovely beautiful caramelization roasted in there, no soggy overcooked Christmas boiled sprouts for this Christmas. So peel them all first and then cut them all in half, because it's going to save you a lot of time. It's just a more methodical way of working rather than peeling one, cutting one, peeling one, cutting one. It makes sense just to peel them all, then cut them all. So they're ready to go. So we'll put those there. And then the chestnuts, these are sort of pre-cooked chestnuts, so they're not going to take a lot of work. So you're basically just going to, you can even just break them up with your hands, to be honest. You just want nice chunks of chestnut like that. And they're sort of going to melt into the pan and coat the Brussels sprouts. And then you've got the salty bacon, earthy chestnuts. Delicious. So the potatoes have been cooking for about 20-25 minutes, so the best way to tell if they're cooked is just take a small knife. You want the potato to not have much resistance, the knife will go straight through. You don't want to boil them so they're completely falling apart, because then you'll end up with mashed potato rather than roast potatoes. So we're just going to drain these off, and then we're going to put them back in the hot pan, and that will take all the excess steam and moisture out of them. We'll give them a little shake. Shaking them in the pan means that you're going to get all these lovely crispy edges on the potatoes, which is what you're looking for in a perfect roastie. Okay, yeah, so you're just going to give them a nice bash up. You see all the edges are fluffing up nicely. And then they're all the bits that are going to crisp up in the oven. So we're just going to set them to a side now and just let them steam off a little bit before going in the oven. So we need to preheat the oven to 160 now, and then we're going to put the duck fat in for the roast potatoes. It looks like a lot, but it tastes really good, so it's really important that you put a lot in. It's also important that you have the same size pan as the amount of potatoes you've got, because otherwise if you've got a really big pan and then just 3 or 4 potatoes in the middle, then you've basically got duck fat boiling away for nothing. So if you have it in the right size pan, then it means that all the potatoes get an even covering of duck fat. So we're just going to pop this in the oven now. So we've done most of the prep for the main course, which is good, and now we're going to crack on with the prep for the starter. So the fennel is going to be the main sort of salad component of the starter. We're going to take off the tops here, and we're going to use those for poaching the shellfish in a bit, and then we'll just take off the woody bottom of the fennel there, and then we're going to cut this into quarters. And then we're going to shave this on the mandolin. So if you see on the fennel there's 2 sides, you've got the wider side and the thinner side. We want to shave it on the thinner side because then you're going to get really lovely crispy slices of fennel. So obviously be careful using a mandolin. So you want nice thin slices. If it's too thick, fennel's quite hardy, so it's going to be quite chunky to try and chew that, so you want it nice and thin. So when you're using a mandolin, you want to have it, you don't want to be doing it in mid-air because you're much more likely to cut yourself, so always make sure you've got a solid base. So that's like that, and then we're going to put this into ice water. So what that does, well, first of all, it stops it from oxidizing, so it's not going to go brown. And second of all, the ice water is going to make the fennel curl up and it's going to look really impressive. And it's going to make it nice and crunchy as well, which is what we want. And then we're just going to do a little bit of diced shallot for the salad. So just a little brunoise, so across and then in. Just only need 1 cut that way on such a diddy shallot. And that shallot's just going to bring a nice acidity to the salad. And then also we'll chop the spring onions. So just peel the outer layer off the spring onions. I just chop these up. So then we're just going to slice these spring onions on a bias. I like spring onions because it gives a nice oniony flavour, but it's not totally overpowering. It's nice to use them all the way to the ends. So our other salad components. So while the oven's getting nice and hot, we're just going to make our sourdough croutons for the starter. So we'll probably just need about half of this really. We're going to take the crust off just because the crust won't cook evenly along with the inside of the bread. So just whack that off. You can always use that for, you can dry it out in the oven and blitz it up and keep it for breadcrumbs for a later date if you so wish. And we're just going to go nice even slices of bread. Right, so they're all nicely evenly diced, and then we're just going to put a little bit of oil. You don't want them swimming in oil because they'll be really greasy, so you literally just want a tiny little bit just to get them toasty. And then just a little bit of salt as well. Again, not masses, just enough to give it a little bit of flavour so it's not just a plain flavour. And then we'll just toast those in the oven, in the 160-degree oven. They're probably going to take 8 to 10 minutes. So we've got most of the starter prepped, and now we're going to get the turkey in the oven to get that going. So we're going to seal it off in a nice big pan. So you want to put a nice glug of veg oil in there. Leave that to get nice and hot. So we're just going to basically gently brown the bacon over just to get it started, get the lovely crispy flavours going in there, and then we'll finish it off in the oven. So we'll put it in presentation side down first. Let that sizzle away for a minute. think it'll take about 3 to 4 minutes to get a nice caramelization on the bacon, and then we'll turn it by a quarter each time. So just going to roll that slightly. There we go. Around so we can go the other way. Yeah. There we go. Getting there. Okay, so once you've got this lovely caramelization on the bacon, that's going to add extra flavour again. We're going to put that into a roasting tray and then go into the oven. So this has been in the oven for about 10-15 minutes now. You can see that's all nice and hot. So we're going to go in with these potatoes. So you want that nice sizzle. That means they're going to seal and start going crispy straight away. So you've got enough space in between them for them to get nice and crisp, but they're not going to touch each other. So we can get this in the oven now, and the turkey in the oven. So we'll start the turkey off for about 45 minutes and then we'll test the temperature. We'll leave the potatoes in, and then once the turkey comes out to rest, we're going to crank the oven up for the potatoes to get that extra crispy crunch around the outside. So the croutons are ready now, so they're nice and crispy. You don't want them too dark because they'll be really, really difficult to eat. Obviously it's sourdough, so it's quite a chewy bread anyway, so that's a nice texture and consistency, so we'll just leave those to cool down now. So we're just going to make a little sort of stock to cook the lobster and the prawns in. So we've got the fennel tops that we saved from before, plus we'll stick a shallot in there. It's kind of like a cork bouillon type style, just again to get extra flavour into everything we do rather than just boiling it in plain old water. So we'll pop those shallots in there, fennel in there, sprig of thyme, nice pinch of salt. Let's bring that up to the boil. So we're going to drop the lobster into that stock now. That's going to take 4 minutes to cook. So have that on a little rolling boil there. Okay, so we'll take that lobster out now, let that rest for a second, and then we're just going to turn the heat down, and then we're just going to really gently poach these prawns. If you're cooking for two, it will obviously be a few less prawns than this, so you don't want the rolling boil on the prawns there, just a nice gentle simmer for about 2 minutes. So they've been in just under 2 minutes. They can come out and drain off now.
When you broke it open then, what were you looking for?
I was just looking to see that it was cooked, so you'll lose that sort of iridescent blue to the prawn. So we're going to eat this within the next sort of 20 minutes, so it's going to be nice to have it at room temperature, so you're going to get much more flavour out of it than having rather real stone cold shellfish. So if we were preparing it the day or a few hours before, we'd refresh it into ice water, but I think it's going to be nice to have sort of a room temperature shellfish here. So we're just going to segment this clementine. Let's just go around, make sure you get as much of the pith off as possible. And then you can see where the segments are, so you just go in either side. And that way you're not getting all the pith and bits of the orange on the segment, rather than just peeling it open. Yeah, that's probably enough. So nice orange segments ready to rock. So we're sending you a really special dressing here. So it's a citrus mayonnaise. What we've done is we've taken some mandarin puree and we've reduced it right down to get a really intense orange. And then we've mixed it with some lemon zest and lime zest and finished it with some Tabasco. So you've got Chardonnay vinegar, which is a really beautiful, sharp but sweet vinegar in there, Tabasco sauce, fresh lemon juice, and then you've got the lemon zest in there. So it's a really beautifully powerful sauce, and it almost, the reduction of the orange kind of makes it taste a little bit Mary Rose, you know, what would be traditional with a seafood cocktail. But I just wanted to move away from the tomato ketchup element and give something a little bit more special for Christmas. Okay, so we've drained the fennel off, so that's gone nice and crispy now, and then we have just seasoned that with a bit of salt and a bit of lemon, and then we're going to mix through that the spring onions and the shallots. Just give that a nice toss around. Maybe just get a little glug of olive oil on there as well, actually, just a little glug of olive oil on there as well. So then we're going to arrange this in the bottom of the dish. So obviously prawn cocktail is a real 80s classic. I'm really into, like I said, nostalgia it's all about nostalgia for me, especially at Christmas. But obviously we always want to elevate things, and you know, some soggy iceberg lettuce and some sad prawns is not good enough for Christmas, so that's why we've put a bit of thought into it and got all these lovely, amazing luxury shellfish in here, the wonderful citrus mayo, the freshness of the clementine zest, and then the crispiness of the fennel. I just think it all works so perfectly together. So we'll get a few of these stunning up outside the bowl. So at Banquist, we love to see your creations, so tag us at Little Chef Sally and at Banquist with your creations, and I'll pick a winner, and the winner will get a free Banquist box for 2. So next we're going to mix some of this lovely mayonnaise with the crab. A generous spoon of that. Going to follow that with the lobster, so we'll just put that like this, and then a few prawns. That should probably, just for retro's sake, hang one off the side of the glass as well. It's quite important to keep it retro. Then we're going to add the couple of orange segments. And then we're going to finish with some lovely, get the croutons in there for a nice bit of crunch, and then finish with some lovely little sprigs of dill. Doesn't get much more Christmassy than that, does it? Go. So then you want to encourage your guests to mix that all up so they get that lovely citrus mayonnaise all over everything in the glass. So there you have it, seafood cocktail with fennel and citrus mayo. So I've paired this wine with a Franz Haas Pinot Nero because it's got baubles on the bottle. Let's just Just going to give it a taste. Yeah, that's going to go really well with this box. It's got quite Christmassy flavours, so a bit of cinnamon, a little bit of marzipan coming through, and it's quite a nice light red, so it's going to go lovely even with turkey, and you'll be able to squash a few of those during the day, I think, certainly. Okay, so the turkey's just come out of the oven now, so you can see that it's in the right temperature zone, so you want it about 60-65 degrees when it comes out. Obviously it's going to rest through, so it'll finish cooking completely. It took about an hour and 15 minutes in the oven. You want to check it 2 or 3 times, obviously. You want to take it out when it's just cooked, so you're not getting it overcooked and it resulting in being dry. So I probably, after 45 minutes, I started checking it every 10 minutes, and then now you can see it's come up to the right temperature. So we're going to let that rest for about 30 minutes, and in the meantime we're going to get the rest of the prep done for the main course. So we've taken that out of the oven now. It's going to need to rest for about 30 minutes. So in the meantime, we're going to crank the oven up to about 190 just to get those potatoes really, really nice and crispy. They'll probably take sort of 20 to 30 minutes to get crispy, so everything should come together nicely. And we'll also pop the parsnips and carrots in at the same time to get them nice and hot as well. So you want to turn the potatoes about every half hour, just to make sure that they get a nice even colour, because they're going to fry more in the fat than the bit sticking out. So they can go back in the oven now. So we're just going to pass off the sauce now, so that's been simmering away. Just pass it into a clean pan so we can reheat it when we're ready. Give that a nice drain off. And then we're just going to stir in the mustard. So good spoon. That's ready to go. So the last bit of cooking to do for the main course is to get the sprouts ready to go. So we're just going to chop up this bacon. That's right enough. Good glug of veg oil in there. We'll fry the bacon first, because then you'll get the lovely pan juices to roast the sprouts in, and then we'll just finish it with chestnuts and a little bit of butter at the end. So that's started to crisp up a little bit. We're going to get the sprouts in. Put them face down to get a little bit of colour. Get a little bit of salt. You don't have to go crazy amounts of salt because the bacon's quite salty. And you just want to leave them now just to get a nice bit of colour on the underside. If you stir the pan around too much, then you'll lose all the heat out of it. So just keep them just for a couple of minutes just to get a nice roasted side. So now you've got that nice colour on there. We're going to go a knob of butter. Give them all a nice splash of water in there just so it doesn't burn. Just to sort of deglaze the bottom of the pan and get all those lovely roasty flavours in there, just to finish them off. Okay, then when that's all reduced out there, we'll go in with the chestnuts. And there you go, it's ready to go. So we're at the final stages now. Turkey's rested, potatoes are just 5 more minutes in the oven. So we're just gonna take this out onto the board ready to carve, and then you see all these beautiful roasting juices in the pan here. The last thing we wanna do is waste them. So we'll just scrape them out. All of that's all extra flavour. We get that right in there. Bring that up to the boil. Yeah, so we'll just stir that in there. So it's about now that you want to be getting your plates in the oven to warm up. No one likes to eat on cold plates. Just make sure you've got everything prepared, ready to go for when we're serving. Okay, so now we're going to carve the turkey. It's important that you get a nice sharp knife for this, and you want quite a long knife as well. A short one, you're going to end up hacking it away. So we'll just take off those pieces of string. Cool, and then see those lovely, nice, juicy slices of turkey. That's great. So you see it's just cooked. It's got the tiniest hue of pink in there, and you can see that the juices are running straight out of it, so it means that it's going to be absolutely delicious. The stuffing in there smells really amazing as well. That's going to have flavoured and perfumed the meat all the way through. Definitely going to be enough left over for turkey sandwiches later as well. So just drain those potatoes off a little bit. See, they're beautifully crispy. You need that little last blast of high heat to get them nice and crispy. So I'm gonna start plating up now. Where's that? Beautiful. Potatoes. Cheese. Lovely. And then we'll go sauce nice and hot. Jug. Lovely roasting juices in there. And then sprouts will just so there you have it, stuffed roast turkey, duck fat roast potatoes, honey glazed parsnips and carrot, Madeira mustard sauce, and chestnut and bacon fried Brussels sprouts. So the chocolate sauce just needs to get warmed up so it's at a pourable consistency. If it's got a little bit too thick, you can always just put a tiny little splash of water in just to bring it back there. So that should be good to go. So this is the choux pastry for the profiteroles. If it's got a little bit hard in transit, we can just give them a little flash through the oven. So while the oven's at 160 degrees, just give them 3 to 4 minutes till they get warm again. And once they cool, they'll be lovely, refreshed and crisp. And then you'll just need to make a little hole in the bottom of them to pipe in the cream. You can just use a small knife or a little spike to do that. So we're just gonna fill them up. So this is the spiced chestnut cream. You really want to be generous with this, fill them all the way up so you get lots of that lovely cream in there, and then we're going to start layering them up on the plate. So the cream is made with cooked chestnuts, which we've cooked in a stock syrup to sweeten them up, and then we've added nutmeg, cinnamon and clove just to give it that real sort of Christmas flavour, and then we've basically made a pâte bombe, so egg yolk and sugar. You whisk that, heat up the sugar, whisk up the egg yolk, and that sort of makes the basis for the cream, and then you set that, and once it's set, you whisk it up with some double cream, and it makes this lovely light mousse to fill the profiteroles with. So this is going to be profiteroles for about 4 people here. Obviously going to be quite a feast. So they're all ready to go. We can arrange these in a fancy tower. Like that. Okay, and then to finish it off, I'm going to pour the chocolate orange sauce all over. Use it all up, it tastes good. Perfect, and then obviously, being Christmas, we're gonna go for a bit of gold. Ooh. So there you have it, chocolate orange and spiced chestnut profiterole tower.
Okay, Sally, what is your desert island crisp?
Oh, probably have to be Whatsits.
What would be your death row meal?
Death row meal would have to be venison Wellington with truffle mashed potato.
Favourite restaurant in the world?
Wow, what a question. I think the probably most memorable experience I've ever had was at the French Laundry.
3 Christmas dinner party guests, alive or dead?
Oh, I think we'd have to go with a powerhouse of women. So I'd go Emmeline Pankhurst, Sylvia Plath and Michelle Obama.
Finally, your least favourite food?
My least favourite food is egg white.
And very last, your favourite Christmas tune?
Favourite Christmas tune is Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues. Oh no, it doesn't work when yeah, but I'm supposed to win.
Can you say Merry Christmas?
Actually.
Probably though.